Welcome to Successful Living with Bill Napick. Every week, we talk with interesting people in a variety of professions for ideas to enhance your success in all aspects of life. Successful Living with Bill Napick starts right now. Here's Bill Napick.
Welcome to the Successful Living Show. I'm your guest host today, Donnie Boutwell, and today is a very special technology edition of the show. As you would expect, we're here to interview a very interesting person about his life, his career, how he became successful, and how he found himself working for a relatively new and high-tech company that is just blowing up around the country. His name is Rich Way, and he's a national account manager for a little company called Ring.
Yes.
Or Ring.com.
Yeah, spunky startup.
Welcome to the show, Rich.
Hey, thanks, Donnie. Appreciate it.
Do you call it Ring or do you call it Ring.com?
Ring.
Ring, just Ring.
Well, not just Ring, but Ring.
Ring.
Yeah.
Drop the jest.
Yeah, always home.
Awesome. Well, we're here today to talk to Rich about his life and how he got where he is. It's such an interesting transition, I think, that I've seen you make in your life. We've known each other for
many lives.
Longer than we want to admit.
It's true.
Probably.
Yeah.
I think Darcy was the one that introduced us.
That's right.
A really sweet, wonderful friend. And I saw you as I was transitioning out of the music business around the same time, started seeing you do that sort of thing too. Mm-hmm. What were you doing in Nashville when we met, and how long were you doing the music stuff?
Yeah, so it had always been, since I picked up a bass guitar, to move to Nashville, play in a Christian music artist as a backup bass player, like the what they call the hired gun in the biz.
In the biz.
And so I worked, I think, since 14 years old. It was my dream to come out there. And so when I was 22, I packed up everything, went across the mountains from North Carolina to Nashville to start my music career.
Yeah.
And had no earthly idea what I was doing, and just started playing in bands and trying to meet people. And I met Darcy as from another band, which was a space rock band.
Space rock.
Yeah. How
do you define space rock?
It's rock music with extra synthesizers.
Are there costumes involved?
I did shave my head and I had guy liner, because I think that's when you first met me. Because I had
guy liner.
Guy liner. I looked like the lead singer of Newsboys for a bit, right? So I did that, and I had a blast and worked too many jobs and was doing whatever I could to survive, and then met you, and we were hanging out. You were doing your thing on the music side with doing some recording, and eventually I worked hard enough to stop working at a job and just did it full time for a few years. Met my wife, and we were on the road. I think I got married in April. We got married. Well, no, I know we got married in April.
Oh, good.
Sorry, Sharissa. And we went on the road in May. I didn't come home in any real time until November. And so it was a lot of time, and I hated talking on the phone. Yeah. So we didn't really see each other, and I saw a lot of things on the road that that marriage is ending, and just not wanting to be a part of that life. So I made the decision to stop being on the road. I wanted to get out of the music industry, and so I took. You familiar with the book called 90 Days to the Work You Love?
No, it's
interesting. It's a really good book. At the time, I was listening to a lot of Dave Ramsey, and he was telling all about that.
That'll change your life.
I literally took 90 days, and I just sat in my townhouse, and I said, what do I want to do with my life? Music's been such a big part of my life for so many years. Now what? And as a 26-year-old man, having a midlife crisis, it was insane. But I remember I got a surround sound system for our wedding present, and I stapled the speaker wire to the wall, and I was looking around. I was like, I want to do this for a living. And so I literally sat down and I wrote a letter, and I said, "Dear audio video company, I know absolutely nothing, but I want to learn. Hire me to do anything, and I'll just learn the business." And I'd sent it out to every audio video company I found in the Yellow Pages and in Google searches. I think I sent out around 35 letters.
Wow.
With my very terrible resume.
And
I had a couple of phone calls, and a couple of guys were like, you sound fine, but I don't have any jobs for you. At one company did give me a shot. I was pulling wire, and just had a thirst for wanting to know how it is. I've always loved electronics. I always loved tinkering with stuff. And this was, putting the batteries in a remote just on a larger scale.
Yeah.
And it was, the company hired me on. I started working and getting larger and larger and larger installations.
Right.
Then after a couple of years, I decided to get out of the field and getting into selling the electronics. So I worked for an electronics distributor in Nashville.
Okay. Now that was a transition because that's what we call B2B sales.
Correct.
In the biz. It's
the
business,
new biz now.
The new biz.
Yeah.
It's business to business sales,
Correct.
which I think a lot of people listening probably don't know what business to business sales is. And it's interesting now that you've transitioned to even higher level of that in that world of business to business sales. So that was a transition into that.
Yeah, it was. And I loved it. I love working with the public. I love being able to explain really highly technical stuff to someone who doesn't have any clue what it actually does and what it means. So I learned very quickly to take things down to its most basic form, to say at the end of the day, it has all of these features, but you're not going to have to get up in the middle of the night to turn the light off.
Right.
And it helped me in transitioning from B2C, business to customer, to B2B, business to business, and then selling to the likes of, during this whole transition, you were actually doing the same thing and getting into this business.
Right.
So,
and I'm still B2C
you're still
in our
B2C.
world, but I'm your customer now.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, you are my customer, and these are your customers. So it's working out really well.
Yeah.
But no, it's been a blast, honestly.
Yeah.
To be able to enjoy the people you work with, because it's a relationship. Just like you have relationships with your customers that are 10, 15 years old.
Yeah.
I have relationships with clients that I've been working through all of the different companies I worked for. I can call them up and say, hey, I'm working for this company out there. And they say, okay, tell me about it.
Well, after the distributor that you worked for, you went to a pretty big name company after that.
Yeah. So after, while I was sitting at the front counter of this, essentially Best Buy for Business type distributor, I had people coming in that were working for manufacturers and holding what they call counter days, where they just sit in front of the counter and wait for people to come by and talk to them. Kind of like if you go to a liquor store and you have somebody say, hey, do you want to try some whiskey? It's the same thing.
Not quite as fun, but still.
Yeah, no. Hey, do you want to talk about an iPad on the wall? Those types of people. And I looked at that and I was like, that looks like a lot of fun. And the opportunity came to work for another company called Bose, and I was working.
What is that called again?
Bose. I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but
in fact, I have.
You have? Okay, good.
Pretty good company.
Yeah. So I worked for them for a few years and got to really enjoy the other side of the counter and sitting up there saying, "Hey, let's talk about some really."
I remember seeing you present at national level at trade shows.
Yes.
For Bose, which was just amazing to see you in that context.
Yeah, and the best part about that trip, and I still remember it, is I'm talking to somebody who was really high up in the industry, and you and your wife were walking by the booth every single time, and you were making faces and making me crack up. And it just proved that, like, no matter where you're at, you can still be silly, you can still have fun, because I was trying my best to be a professional, and you were just bringing me right back down to my 22-year-old self.
Yeah.
It was great. Loved it. And every single time I see you at an event, do the same thing. And it's wonderful. I can't wait to do the same to you.
Thank you.
You're going to be talking in front of your clients, and I'm just going to show up one day.
Right.
Throw a pie in your face.
Like right now. So how did that go transitioning to Ring? Did they recruit you? Did they come after you, or did you reach out to them?
So I'd been selling Ring as a distributor.
Yeah.
And when I first saw it, I was, this is it. This is the thing that changes everything. In our business.
Well, there was this transition in our world where it's like all of a sudden the doorbell was different. Like, are you kidding? The doorbell? We've had the same doorbell for 100 years.
Right.
And now all of a sudden there's something completely new. I remember seeing the episode on Shark Tank, but with the founder of the company, and it was just so interesting for us in this world to think, wow, this is something that could really be a game changer for so many people.
Yeah, and I was doing as an integrator, I was doing the same thing in a roundabout way, but it cost $5,000,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
2
yeah.
days of wiring and programming to
And
make.
it's not going to ring an app, but it's going to
no.
do other things
Right.
around the
It
house.
made the
video.
television pop up the video, but it
Right.
required a lot of technical know-how, a lot of wiring.
Mm-hmm.
And then this little device came out that uses the existing voltage of the doorbell. You ring it, and a little video pops up on your phone. And I saw that, and I said, this is really a game changer.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be a part of it. And so I actually had interviewed with Ring a couple of times over the years, never really lined up. And then as I was transitioning out of Bose, the next day, as I was going to clean out my locker, so to speak, my storage room, I got a phone call from the business to business sales at Ring and said, "Hey, how do you like Bose?" I was like, "It's interesting. You said that. I actually am. This is my last day with them." And they said, "Don't make a move." And so I came out and interviewed with them. And it's been almost 3 years now. So we've made a lot of changes, especially in the business-to-business sector, to bring products to market that not only serve your customers, what Ring calls our neighbors, to serve your customers, but also to allow for much larger, more complex installations. Ring calls it advanced DIY, or we call it DIFM, do it for me.
Yeah.
There's a big, large swath of products that Ring sells.
Do that slower.
DIFM.
Do it for me instead of DIY, because we always say at Media Systems that the worst thing about DIY is you have to do it yourself.
Correct.
Sometimes you don't want to do it yourself.
There's lots of reasons why you would want to do it yourself. There's lots of reasons why you would want to hire someone like you that can do it faster, give a better quality product, and overall better experience.
Yeah.
I equate it to the same thing of, anybody can mow the lawn, but there's lots of landscaping companies out in the world.
That's right.
Anybody can paint a house,
but we have a lot of listeners on the Successful Living Show that are DIY type people that are savvy, that can handle this sort of thing. I think, what do you think about that? Is it really that difficult to get a Ring doorbell out of the box and make it work?
No, it's really not. There's lots of products, and Ring's mission, part of Ring's mission is to allow for anybody who really wants to make their neighborhoods feel safer to provide affordable equipment that they can install themselves.
Okay, so I hear this mantra from you a lot, and I think it's interesting to dig into it, that the mission of the company has a lot to do with safety and security. Right. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So the mission at Ring is to make neighborhoods safer. Yeah. Kind of what I believe one of the questions we always get is like, what separates you from the other competition? At Ring, we always like to work backwards from the customer. What ultimately would benefit the customer? And there was a need, really. You can put cameras in your home and you can feel safe and secure. But when cameras are there just to identify situations, you would still have to take action on that. And at the end of the day, that's your home protected. But what about your next door neighbor? What if someone's coming through and breaking into the car at the front of the block? Or you're in a gated community and there's a rash of break-ins that start to happen. Instead of calling, the HOA or posting on, say, Nextdoor or Facebook that only sees a couple of people, anybody who has the Ring app or anybody who downloads the Neighbors app can get access to a community of Ring users.
Are you saying that Neighbors app is a separate app from your Ring product app?
Correct.
It is. And anybody can download the Neighbors app?
Anybody can download the Neighbors app. You don't have to be a Ring customer.
Does it cost anything?
Nope. It's free in the App Store. You enter your address and you set your zone of where you want to be alerted, anywhere from a couple of blocks up to 5 miles. And anything that happens from municipalities, police, fire, any type of silver alerts, amber alert, those things can be posted from the local municipalities, neighbors that are experiencing a lost dog or a rash of break-ins. They can actually post their Ring videos up on as a voluntary basis to the Ring Neighbors app. And anyone who has that app within that radius gets an alert that says, hey, this is happening in your neighborhood. And then you can read and comment on it. We actually had, I was on the phone actually this morning with a company, municipality out in Illinois, and they had a break-in, and they posted it to the Ring Neighbors app. And within 2 hours, the police had been able to take that video footage that the neighbor posted and find and apprehend the suspect who was going through in another person's home who had taken the keys from their neighbor.
Wow.
Yeah. And to be able to get the entire neighborhood notified that there is suspicious activity happening in real time is incredible.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, and it's all in an effort to make neighborhoods feel safer.
Right, right. So it's not just doorbells that we're talking about here.
Correct.
There's really a whole suite of different things that you could install at home to provide that safety and security. What was the next thing that they came out with after the doorbell?
So after the doorbell, the next generation was security cameras and floodlights. So if you're not familiar with what a floodlight cam looks like, just take a walk around your block.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's plenty sitting on the side of people's homes and in the front of the garages. So the next big iteration was security cameras. So we came up with a line of products that was lighted products, spotlight cam, where it's a camera with integrated LEDs, and then floodlight cam, which takes the place of your regular floodlight that's on the side of your house.
It's like a motion activated light that will kick on?
It's a motion activated light with a camera that can alert you, and you can remotely turn them on or off. It's connected by Alexa. So you can say, Alexa, turn on the floodlights, and then those floodlight cameras would actually turn the lights on.
Okay.
And then from there, we started expanding into more and more avenues. So now we have smart lighting control. We have access control for people with front gates. You can actually open and close that gate remotely from your phone. And then the next big iteration was security. So I think in 2018, we released the Ring Alarm. The Ring Alarm is a wireless DIY alarm system that communicates with a monitoring system, and the rates were very low, and you can do it yourself, or you can hire someone to install it. And then that just goes into your Ring app. So through those iterations, we were voted, I think, #1 by CNN for best DIY alarm system. And just recently, I think late last year, we came out with the Ring Alarm Pro. And what we saw was that physical security is great. You've got the camera systems for the doorbell and multiple cameras throughout the house, and you've got your physical security protected. But we noticed that a lot more and more people are having people online and holding their lives online. You know, think about what's on your computer, your banking software, your logins, all those things that are your digital security. And while we wanted to protect, and we're doing a good job of protecting your physical security, what about your digital security? So we partnered with another Amazon company called Eero, which makes a mesh Wi-Fi system. So their tagline is Wi-Fi, so because you don't have to think about it. And we actually put one inside of the Ring Alarm. And so now you've got a physical security product that will also protect your digital security by providing you with, unparalleled Wi-Fi performance that is actively being improved and monitored because it is a cloud-based system. And we take that product and pair it with a Wi-Fi hotspot. So now your digital security, you have your digital security protected, your physical security connected, and in this era of working from home and having everything connected at the home, if you're on a Zoom call or you're at that interview and your Wi-Fi cuts out because your ISP decided to have a brownout, or there was a power surge and the modem decided to blip off for a second, that becomes buffering, or worst case scenario, the power goes out. What happens to those Wi-Fi cameras when the power goes out? What happens to your internet connection? And so we actually loaded up a LTE hotspot inside of that alarm system. So as it's your main router, if the internet goes out, it automatically switches over and will give you up to 3 gigs per month of data.
In English for Meemaw.
For Meemaw, when your internet goes out, it's not out.
It's not out because it is like your mobile phone, the way that it talks back to the system.
Precisely. Yeah. When your Wi-Fi is down, or when you leave your home and it automatically switches over to the mobile LTE, same thing is happening inside of for your home internet.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's some really, really great stuff.
Okay, so, but you call it a wireless security system. However, if I already had a Honeywell or some other kind of security alarm system in my house, I've got some door sensors or contacts or other things that are already installed.
Yeah.
Can I use those with the Ring Alarm?
Absolutely. In fact, I did that at my house. I recently moved back to Nashville from Chicago, and I moved into a home that had a full wired security system. And Ring actually makes a Ring retrofit kit. It's what I would call advanced DIY or DIFM.
Yeah.
But you can take over that hardwired alarm system and use those hardwired sensors that would then integrate into the Ring Alarm and have the same capabilities without having to go around the house and stick the wireless sensors on each door. And you can, keep your aesthetic and keep those wired sensors that you or the previous homeowner had paid for, but still have the benefit of utilizing Ring with those existing sensors. It's quite amazing.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, because you feel like you've already got an investment in something.
Right.
And then, many people might prefer to have something hardwired anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is reducing the burden on wireless. The more
Absolutely.
things you can connect with a wire, the less burden there is on the wireless. And one of the things that I found to be super helpful in the DIFM, stuff with Ring, sometimes people can do this themselves, but it's a little bit more high level in that you do have some cameras that can connect with a wire, with an Ethernet cable.
Correct.
And if those are connected, then that's going to also provide the power for it. So you're not thinking about getting power or battery, but it's also providing the communication where, depending on the size of your house and how it's built, sometimes getting Wi-Fi to work on the outside of the house is not awesome. Radiant barriers, or the better your house is built, the more difficult it is to get the Wi-Fi to travel outside, unless you can, put some sort of access point outside or a box that creates some Wi-Fi outside.
Correct.
But if you're going to do that, then hey, why not just talk to somebody about getting some Ethernet pulled in the attic so that you can use the Ring cameras that have the Ethernet capability.
Absolutely. And a really great way, if you're at home and you are wondering, this is all gibberish, I don't really understand, take your phone, put on a piece of music, blast that phone as loud as you can sit it on top of your modem, and then go to a different room. Can you hear that as clear as you could while you're in the room with the modem? And Wi-Fi is the same way. It's radio signals. If you can't get a radio signal through the brick and the copper and the wood studs and everything else, you need that.
A lot of people have plaster in their homes.
Yeah, the horsehair plaster from the older homes is an absolute wireless killer.
Stucco has that metal mesh.
Yeah. It kills Wi-Fi, and the enterprise solutions that you can offer to make sure you have adequate Wi-Fi everywhere. But at the end of the day, like you said, if you can pull a wire and get the wire to that main network and not even have to worry about Wi-Fi interference or the occasional Wi-Fi dropout, having a hard wire is best. Ring makes a collection of products that are what we call power over Ethernet. So that computer cable that you plug in, they can run power to power the device and give solid hardwired network connection. And now we can actually incorporate additional cameras. So if you've got, let's say you're a business and you the local dentist office, and you have a bunch of hardwired cameras that are what they call ONVIF supported. If it's an ONVIF supported hardwired camera that you put in a few years ago, and you never use the NVR that's in the basement of the office because it's kind of hard to use, or you want to have that instant access that you have with all of your Ring cameras, but you still have all these other cameras. We now have that ability to bring those third-party cameras that are ONVIF supported into the Ring app.
And it's been fun to just catch up,
Right.
After all these years.
It's been dozens.
It's been a long time, too long. I just remember we just had a lot of fun back in the day.
We did.
Doing music and
irresponsible musicians.
Yes.
Without a care in the world.
Yeah, trying to figure it out. I remember there was a time when I had a music studio on Music Row, and I lived on 12th Avenue, kind of Hawkins Street back over there.
That's right. Right next to the swing set.
It was a rental, and we were just so dumb back then as kids. I remember thinking, you know what, we need to remodel the back of this place. Mm-hmm. And it was a rental. Yeah.
I remember that day is forever burned in my mind because I came over to your house and it was late at night, and there's always plenty of people at your house. Always plenty of interesting people at your house. Yeah. And I came over, and you and someone else were sledgehammering the drywall.
Yeah, I think it was Steve Wilson.
Off the back of the back room.
Yeah.
And you were in some sort of trance because I walk in and I was like, and I knew it was a rental. And I was like, what are you doing? And you wouldn't say anything, but it's a B studio.
Yeah.
It's a B studio. And I was like, what's a B? What are you doing to the walls? And you would never say anything other than it's a B studio.
We were making improvements.
Yeah,
we were. But in my defense, I had a landlord, and he sold it to an investor, and so the landlord was out of the picture, and the investor had not ever even shown up. I never even met the investor, and he didn't even see the house. So I thought, if I could make some improvements, hey,
That's right.
I'll make some improvements.
It did end up being great.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were in a different mode at that point.
It was a little brave. I do not recommend ever taking a sledgehammer to a rent house that's not your house.
No.
That's probably not a good idea.
Take that under advisement.
Yeah.
And that is how you live successfully.
That's right. But we're a lot more grown up now.
Yes.
You know, and much more responsible. And it was interesting when I left the music business. I many that might be listening know this story, but it was really the prodigal son. You know, as much as I loved doing what I was doing in the music business and had a lot of good success with it to a degree, man, it's a tough race, that business. And I remember just about begging my uncle for a job, like the prodigal son. I had this feeling that anybody who works on my uncle's staff at the lowest level at least has the opportunity for health insurance and a steady paycheck, and it was technically, like, by the hour, a significant pay cut to get out of what I was doing, but I didn't have any overhead coming over to this industry. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I did. I came here to Media Systems, and I remember my first day on the job was there was no training. There was no like, hey, take this course, mm-hmm. Read this book, it's nothing like that. He would always say that the best training was monkey see, monkey do, which is not true with computers.
No.
Yeah.
No.
But in construction, it can be extremely helpful. And I remember the first day on the job was, why don't you go see if you can help George carry something? And that was it. Like, he didn't quite know what to do with me and just kind of said, go figure something out, and we'll see what you can learn how to do. And so I was really hungry to learn, which is annoying for a helper. Like, it's like, just shut up and do what I tell you to do and stop asking me questions. Just do it,
Right.
So I can't imagine how irritating I was. The boss's nephew showing up and, begging to learn how to do something. But over the years, I had every single job, much like your story, going from music business into working for a custom integrator. Mm-hmm. You said you're just pulling wire. Well, that's a lot of what I did, was just go and pull wire. Then I learned how to make connections and terminations, learned how to test those and certify them. And then gradually over time, and part of the problem coming into the industry that way was that I had already been a small business owner, and here I am coming in, and I was in my 30s, coming in to be a helper to people who were very good at what they were doing, but they were not ever personality of somebody that would want to run the whole thing, mm-hmm. But I was, and yet I knew I had to humble myself and submit to leadership and just back myself down and be willing to grow and to learn. And so I just had one job after the other. I was a helper. Then I was allowed to do some things unsupervised, like hang a TV, mm-hmm. And then at some point, I became a project lead without the title, basically.
Right.
It was just here, and I just took leadership because at some point we had people that were newer that, would listen to me, where the people that had been here longer really, they didn't want me to tell them what to do because I hadn't been here as long. But just a drive to learn and to get better. And I think that as we talk about successful living, that's such an important side of it.
Absolutely.
Humbling yourself, being willing to grow and learn, asking for help, not being arrogant, be correctable. It's so important to be correctable. And so I just had every job. I after being a project lead, then it was, I'm going to walk this job and talk to the builder. While I'm talking to the builder, I want you to go look around and do the recon, we mm-hmm. call it, where you go see what's in the house already and take the notes and, get some plans together about what could be done to update systems in the house. So then after that, I was allowed to put a proposal together, which I had no idea how to do that, and so then it was, okay, we're having a sales meeting. I'll let you talk about this part of it and explain what we're going to do, And I didn't realize that through that process, my uncle was actually mentoring me.
Right.
It was
Because he didn't sit you down and say, I'm going to be your mentor.
That's right.
I'm going to teach you everything you need to know. And here's the succession
right.
Of the way it's going to happen. It was all organic. It was all just, you've proven you can do this. You're no longer a wire monkey. Now you can do a little bit more and a little bit more. And as you progress, you prove through your hunger and knowledge and being able to retain that knowledge.
Well, and I had computer savvy before I ever walked on the job. Mm-hmm. And so, but this job was primarily construction at first, learning how the trade is. And there's no college degree for our industry. It's not. No. It doesn't exist. I mean, there are college degrees that can be helpful, but you can't go study custom electronics integration. There's not that I know of.
There's a couple of places in Indiana that can help you through a company called CEDIA.
CEDIA, which is a trade association.
Yeah, the trade association can help with education. Mm-hmm. But as you said, there's no accredited degree. I know how to frame a house. Yeah. I know how to get a Category 5 cable from this room to this room because I have the certificate to prove it. It just doesn't exist as of right now. So learning that stuff organically is very important. And as you said earlier, just having a hunger for knowledge and wanting to know how things work. And if you can ask the question why and be explained why it works, you can either accept that or find an improvement.
That's a really important point, especially regarding doing service calls for people. I felt like when I made that transition to be asked to go perform service calls, the only way I could be good at that is to understand how something should be installed from the beginning. If I knew how to do it over from scratch, then I could solve it. But if I didn't know how it worked well enough to fix it, to build it,
correct,
then there's no way I would really know how to solve it. And I think in the custom building industry, or any building industry, especially, if you're hiring a contractor to come in and fix an electrical problem, they need to understand how it works from scratch, how to build it from scratch in order to be able to determine what's wrong, in order to be able to fix it. And so I think that can be part, not to talk down to people that are DIY people, but just to be an encouragement to say, if you're a weekend warrior out there and you've got something that you don't know how to solve, then what you need to study is not necessarily how to troubleshoot the problem, but how to build it from scratch.
Right.
And if you research that, look that up, how do I build this from the beginning up, then you'll know how all the parts work and how everything connects and how everything can work. Yeah. So we were talking about how Ring has products that are DIY centric, and now they've got some things that are more suited for a professional to help you with as well. Is there any kind of training that people can get from Ring on their own products? So I buy a Ring doorbell. I'm not quite sure what to do with it. What kind of training can I get as a DIY person on how to get that hooked up and working?
So there's, it's a great question because we have a lot of resources, youtube.com/ring, that houses all sorts of videos, from funny videos of the dog ringing the doorbell to how to install a floodlight cam. And we go through, we want to make sure that it's accessible and easy for everyone to do in whatever levels they feel comfortable. We do that Ring retrofit alarm kit. We have the full 6-minute instructional video online. But if you don't feel comfortable, hire a professional. We have what we call the Ring Partner Program, and that's for industry professionals like you and companies that know how to install Ring in the local community. And we've been able to connect neighbors with those companies that have proven that they know what the product is and they know the value of what Ring brings to the table. And say, I've got a 5,000 square foot house. I need a full Ring solution. We have national companies that we partner with. And if you're wanting more advanced solutions, we have partnerships or relationship with companies all over. It's
interesting that you bring up about the partnership with Eero. That's spelled E-E-R-O.
E-E-R-O, all lowercase, by the way. Don't capitalize the front E. I got in trouble for that my first couple of times.
It's branding.
Yeah, it's branding.
Yeah. So I think that's interesting because, I remember, I want to say it was 2009 or 10. my uncle was still working for the company, and we were having this discussion about outsourcing IT because that was the model. Back in the day, there was the AV company,
Right.
and there was the
IT
IT
guy.
company, and those were separate. And they say never the twain shall meet. Like, they did their thing, you did your thing. And I remember seeing the writing on the wall and just saying, we need to look at this a little differently, because as the technology changes and as all of our AV equipment, cameras, security, televisions, music systems, controls, remotes, all these things are making this transition to be IT-centric devices. And so we as a company decided, you know what, we're going to have to win at IT. If we don't win at IT, we'll never be successful at AV.
Correct.
And so I think it's really important that you guys, the Ring has seen that and said, we've got to partner with somebody that does just IT, which is the Eero brand, to be able to include their product. Because if you're not successful with Wi-Fi, then the Ring product's not going to be successful if it's a Wi-Fi driven product.
Yeah.
If you don't have an Ethernet cable pulled from a network switch to a camera, and that switch provides PoE, or you know how to put the adapter on to provide the PoE, then you can't expect to be successful in making that work. But because all of it is so IT centric now.
Correct.
Especially cloud services and things reaching out to the internet. Tell us again, I want to dig a little more deeper into that. Since the Ring system is cloud-based, you guys are putting some measures into place now that didn't used to be there, as far as if the internet is to go down.
Correct.
Then how does that work? Internet goes down. Do I lose the feed to the camera? Is the data being recorded still? How does that work, and how is that evolving for Ring?
So yeah, that is a great point. One of the inherent problems with any Wi-Fi connected product is once the Wi-Fi goes down, either cut by power or by internet connection, if it is a cloud connected product, you almost lose that functionality. We've done our best to make sure that products work as well as they can, but once the power source or the network source gets cut, that product doesn't work as the way it's intended. So with the Ring Alarm Pro, there is a product inside of it called Edge. And Edge actually holds an SD card, and you can put any size SD card in that. And all of those cameras you can direct within the Ring app to go and record to that local SD card. So if the Wi-Fi goes out, or if the power goes out, the Ring Alarm Pro has 15 minutes of onboard power and Wi-Fi, or you can add additional power packs to give you up to 24 hours of battery and Wi-Fi backup. Having that when the power or internet goes out, those products that are still receiving power will stay online and will still transmit. So if someone cuts the internet or it goes out, you don't have to worry. You can still access it over that LTE connection that's built in.
Right, which is the cellular
connection
mobile
that automatically turns on once the internet connection is turned off, and it's actively being monitored.
Yeah.
Perfect scenario. I was actually on a Zoom call a couple of weeks ago. My power in Tennessee is a little spotty, and so I was experiencing brownouts. I was experiencing internet brownouts, and my modem decided to reboot right in the middle of a presentation.
Oh, wow.
I didn't even know it happened, but I got an alert on my phone. It says your internet is now using cellular backup. And I was still giving my presentation online, didn't have any hiccups whatsoever. Wow. And then after about 15 minutes, the modem came back on. I got an alert that says your connection's been restored. I had no idea until I got done with the presentation. And if that were a traditional system, I would have been cut off, and I would have had to restart the entire system and just sit there and wait. I mean, anybody who's in the last 2 years, when your internet goes out and you can't work, if you're not presenting on a Zoom call, you're always like, yes, I get a break. But if you're doing something important, you need that internet connection.
That's right.
Or if you've got young kids and you're watching Blippi,
Yeah.
and the internet goes out, you don't want to deal with the screaming kids. They don't understand that Wi-Fi tends to go out sometimes. And so you could have the ability to finish that show.
I think it's important to define the terms in that too, that, the Wi-Fi, that's the signal inside of the house.
Correct.
And the service, that's what's provided by, in Houston, Comcast or AT&T. you're getting that service. So we call that the service. And then we call the connection from the equipment inside the house to the devices, we call that the Wi-Fi. And I think it's confusing for the homeowner out there, because they'll get a box from Comcast or AT&T, and it's called a gateway. All right. And so this gateway we like to define it as a multi-function device, because it's doing things that in a professional Wi-Fi system would be done by individual parts, where you would have a modem that's the service that brings the service to the house. You would have a router, which is the traffic guard, that handles who's talking to what and what address does each box get on the system in the house. But it's also the connection to the outside of the house. So that router does the traffic in and out, and it keeps everybody talking inside the house, whether it's wired or wireless. Then you have a box we call a network switch, which I like to define that is it's similar to a, you'll have a power strip in your house. It's got 6 plugs on it, and it's a way to have one plug go to 6 plugs. A network switch is similar to that with Ethernet, and you can get those in, 5 ports or 8 ports or 16 ports, or going on and on up, But one of the functions of those network switches sometimes is that they can provide that power over Ethernet that you were talking about, where let's say you've got a camera that uses the power over the Ethernet. A network switch can do that without having to have a separate adapter to inject that power, which is a very nice way to do it. And then you have what we call the access point. Now, I've had customers come in and say, I want to have wireless routers all over my house. And I don't want to be rude to them and say, no, you don't.
Yeah, right.
Because you want one router in your house, okay? And you want wireless access points covering your house. And now and I want to do a whole show on this sometime. Now that we're doing 5 and 6 gigahertz Wi-Fi, you got to have more of those to get that band.
Right.
They don't go as far as a 2.4. Are the Ring cameras 2.4 where they can go further, or do they also utilize 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi?
There's a collection of them. All of them do 2.4, and then there's a collection of cameras that do 5 gigahertz, like the new floodlight cam, the new doorbell.
Is there a
systems
max? And this is a highly nerdy question.
Yeah, and we're getting knee deep. Yeah. This is successful living.
It is.
You can see 2 nerds talking about Wi-Fi.
Is there a max video resolution or frame rate, depending on whether you're doing 2.4 or 5 gigahertz, or is that something that you run into?
No, the Ring does something really interesting. So all of our cameras are 1080p, and they all have different camera sensors, and depending on pixel density. And I'm not going to start talking about that, because then this is going to be a 3-hour show. Everyone's going to change it to something else. But they're all 1080p. They're all Wi-Fi or hardwired connections. And though the variable rate that you get is dependent on your connection from your device. So we take that full video feed and we upload it to the cloud or to the local SD card on the Ring Alarm Pro. And as you're viewing it, sometimes it can become pixelated. Sometimes it doesn't look as clear as it should. But that honestly is the connection between your wireless device that you're viewing, your iPad or your iPhone or your computer, and the cloud service, or talking directly to the Ring Alarm Pro's SD
It's not
card.
from the camera back.
No, the camera back
from
is
the user device to the cloud or through the internet that you have that degradation.
Yeah, because we want to make sure that if you want to view that feed, and you're in let's say you're in the mountains, or you're in down underground, and you can't get a really solid connection, it will automatically, kind of like your YouTube video. If you view a YouTube video, it'll downgrade it to make it appear as fast as possible, while the quality may not be there. And if you need a full quality of, let's say, that Ring video, you can actually download that video, and it will download it in full quality and to your device, and you can watch it in that full 1080p resolution.
Okay, that is really interesting.
Yeah.
That's really good. Absolutely. And just in the last couple of minutes here, Rich, we maybe have some listeners who are in a similar situation where they're in a job or an industry, and they feel the pull, the tug to do something different in their life and to find something else to do professionally. You did it. You know, it's such an incredible story to hear that you were able to, you know, as an adult with experience in one industry, decide, okay, I'm going to make a transition. I'm going to do something else. I've got a vision and a direction for my life. You made it. You made that transition. Do you have any words of encouragement or advice for people sitting at home listening, thinking, I got to find something else to do?
It's what we've been saying this whole time. If you have a thirst for knowledge and you have a passion for something, there is ways to make that into your career if you really want that to happen. I mean, you and I did the same thing with music. We wanted that to be a career, and we made it a career. And when that season ended and we said, well, what's next? We decided that these are the passions that I have. These are the things that line up with my values, and I want to do that. You know, I completely was out of my element, pulling wires in a house that I could have never afforded in the 7 lifetimes. But I got to do some really, really cool stuff. And it all started with sending a letter saying, I don't know anything, but I want to learn. And find someone who says, I need someone that will help me, and I can teach you those little bit of things. And as it progresses, it's like, it's not going to be overnight. But at the end of the day, back in 2006, when I said, I need to get out of being a musician, I never thought that I'd say, I'm going to sell doorbells. But through the progression and through what I've been able to see and recognize, I've got a passion for small businesses. I've got, nothing makes me happier than to walk into these doors and see you being successful, because you are a small business and you're the backbone of America at this point. And to be able to work with a bunch of small businesses and help them grow and help them adapt and change, and having that type of passion gets me inspired to look and say, what's going to be the next 5 months? How do I leverage what I know and what I think my small business partners would want to do? That type of mentality will get you a lot further. And the other part of it is, no one really knows what they're doing. You wake up every day and you do the same thing you did, which is just a microcosm better than the day before. And at the end of the day, at the end of your life, you're like, I did a lot of things that I never thought would be possible. And there's a lot of people out in the world that have success in spite of themselves, but you can be one of those people.
That's right.
Just learn, observe, and ask the question why, so that you can understand how the entire system is built, so you know what to fix, and then you'll be rewarded for that knowledge.
That's great. Awesome. Rich, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate you being here.
So great to see you.
Yeah, thanks.